Hello, All Saints family. I hope this video finds you well in this Advent season. It's been a weird and stressful year. It certainly started off with a lot of hope, right? The first couple months of the year, the pandemic was only a whisper off in the far corners of the world. And the search committee was hard at work in search for a new rector. In February, Jeff and Ed Apuzzo came down to Savannah, and I wowed them with Savannah's very best quality, our food. I remember throughout the hiring process how impressed I was about several things about All Saints. The church was clearly committed to serving the poor and the marginalized. There was a growing ministry with children and families, and the church was in a strong financial position. I know that these were foundations that I could build off of. But even more than that, I had a deep sense that this was a place to which God was calling me. By the end of March, as the church was deciding to call me as the next rector of All Saints, New York had shut down. When I arrived in Briarcliff 2 months later, I had a full notebook of ideas, but no way to execute them. It was frustrating for somebody like me who's highly relational to sit in an empty office with no way to meet people in person. If I'm honest, I have felt hamstrung for the majority of the 6 months that I've been here. Not by you, but by the lovely gift of COVID. It's been a challenging year. Yet, I have watched this church press forward. Those of you who work with the poor and the oppressed have not only continued in that work, but have doubled down on it. Loaves and Fishes is giving out more food now than ever. Our commitment with the Ossining Children's Home has borne fruit, and their new building is open and are able to serve, I think, 250 kids, regardless of their financial status. You have trusted me in my experiments as we found new ways to worship together. And most of you have not only contributed to the church and continued your pledge and support, many of you have given more. So as we crawl out of 2021, I want to look at the glimmer of hope that is on the horizon. It reminds me of the passage in Revelation 21. It was written to the early church who were the victims of oppression and unspeakable acts at the hands of the Roman government. It says this: "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.' He who was seated on the throne said, 'I am making everything new.'" God is continually making things new. That is part of the very essence of the God that we worship. Even in the midst of death and destruction, renewal is always taking place. Even today, as we sit mournfully during Advent, which is supposed to be a time of joy, renewal is taking place. So as I look to the new year, I do so with a sense of hope and a sense of excitement, because I know that God is already at work making things new. There are signs out there that even though we may not have hit the darkest point of this pandemic, there is hope. And as people of Advent, we are to look for the signs. We are to cling to those signs of hope and joy and peace that God lays out in front of us. In this hope, I'm excited about next year. I'm eager to get to work and help All Saints realize our potential. To reach that potential, I will be instituting a quarterly cycle of covenants. In quarter one, we'll be making a covenant to prayer. In quarter two, to discipleship. In quarter three, serving our community. And in the final quarter of the year, we will focus on financial gifts. I hope that through this cycle of covenants, we grow individually as disciples of Christ, and we grow closer as a church, and we grow more in love with our community. Last, as we emerge from this pandemic and the restrictions ease, I want us to connect to that community better. Vibrant churches are always seen as being vital in the community that they are in. There are a myriad of ways to make that happen, but if we are going to move towards that sort of vibrancy that I know All Saints can be, we have to get more connected with a community of Briarcliff and beyond. Some ideas I have for next year would be Wednesday night faith formation and family dinners, cocktail hour up on the hill at the rectory, weekday mommy and me activities, and something I'm really excited about, All Saints Fest. If you can imagine, Oktoberfest meets Renaissance Fair, all celebrated around All Saints Day. As we wind down our stewardship campaign for next year, I want to thank everyone who has kept the church's mission going through your tithes and offerings. I also want to thank those who have already sent back their pledge cards. For those who are considering their pledge still, I ask you to try something with me. Over the next week, I want you to take time out of each day to pray specifically for All Saints. During that time of prayer, I ask you to pray specifically for our staff, Sarah, Don, and Colette, as well as our clergy, Deacon Ann, Deacon Connie, and myself. I also ask that you pray for the other families of this church. And as you're in that time of prayer, I want you to ask what God has planned for you this year as a member of All Saints and as a citizen of this kingdom of God that we are part of. All Saints is ready to take the next step in our journey together. God is already at work here and in our community. Are you ready to jump in? See you on Sundays.